So interesting things, they don't notice technology around them because it comes naturally to them. They have many tools to understand and go through their adolescence. They have developed this ecosystem around them, which is very easy for them to comprehend. And in a certain set of things, they are definitely new opinion leaders. So you just can't ignore them. This is what we end up doing. Uh, Media is actually a social currency for them. This is how we look at it. I mean, nothing new about it. We see the social networking sites. But the fact is, if it's not which they can talk about to anybody else, it's not worth being talked about. And this is all I'm talking to you from an data research, which is MTV circuit of Kool-Aid. This is something which we have been very consistently been following it up. What is it which channel we has identified? What is it which MTV has identified? We ourselves do an IMRB research on a regular 6-monthly basis, which one of it got concluded just about 4 days earlier. And there are certain new political learnings which we've got, that what is their interface with politics? Because we realize that iNext as a newspaper has decided not to cover politics in the last 4 years, and I'm talking to you about this in the cities of Varanasi, Patna, and the Hindi heartland of Allahabad, wherein there are thousands of them reading the newspaper, minus the politics in the newspaper. But then we thought that let us understand what is their comprehension of New Age politics, because that's a big topic. So this is the set of things with which we live with, and basis that we decided something which is called iNext Youthosphere. Now what is iNext Youthosphere? If we look at that in content form, we are in everyday basis, we are interacting with them. We are also doing a lot of activation. I am probably the demonstrative person of what Samyak was telling you academically as in products. I think this is more practical, and that was more, of course, with a lot of examples, the right academics. So we said that in terms of engagement, because content and engagement both are important, we'll engage them in 6 domains. We'll engage them in health, sports, entertainment, education, and career by other peers. And then, of course, society, social responsibility, and civic sense. All of these turn out to be the domain. For all these domains, fun, non-conformist, freedom, and energy, these are key essentials. Anything which is on these formats, it needs to happen like this. So for instance, for sports, we thought that the engagement, which is the area which we thought we'll do it through activation. We won one of the recognitions at WAN-IFRA. We said if we have to do it in the sports domain, just as an example, we'll do a classic simple cycle rally amongst the youthful TG with fun, freedom, and fitness in an eco-friendly way. But we'll do bikeathon. We'll not call it a cycling rally. So why bikeathon? Basically, the reason because iNext stands for energy, fun, and youth. So therefore, the sports activity which iNext does should also reflect that. It should be a community sports activity wherein there's a lot of sharing. We thought of cricket, we thought of football, we thought of a lot of other things, but there was participativeness and fun quotient we thought was a little more and unique out here. And we said that if we can do these 3 things, we can build a community, we can strengthen brand iNext, and we can create a youth-centric common factor. I think cycling would turn out to be a very interesting domain. Little later, when bikeathon started 4 years earlier, cyclothon was started by TV18 group. The sponsors, key sponsors requested us, said that can we use this concept and can we use it with another media brand? We said we are very fine with it. It can happen at as many places. I mean, you want to run it for all media houses across the country, we'll be very happy about it. So that is how this came in. I'll skip through the concept, but will tell you that there were about 40,000 participants which participated recently in this across 12 cities in 4 states. And typically, if these people have to cross through a 80-feet wide road, it'll take approximately about 45 to 50 minutes for the entire karma to pass. This is how the responses were there across the cities. It was a paid event. There were registration to this. And this activity has also been recognized by another forum, which is a marketing forum international, INMA, International News Marketing Forum, as the key, the marketeer activity. It has won a first prize also there. So the spirit of bikeathon, there's a TVC associated with it, but I would probably skip that. just to give in perspective that what would entertainment mean. So we said that if we are in touch with all the youth, then in that case we will have to uh, think of something entertaining and in their campus environment that we get in touch with. So he said, what could it be? He said, the freshers or those after the +2, when they get inside the school college, this is the first time they're looking for a lot of things. They have a lot of expectations from the people around them, and I think we can connect with them and can become partner to them. So we said all parties will be roadblocked by iNext, and these would be all fresher parties, and these will be called iNext Fresh and Crazy parties. We fortunately got one of the sponsors here also, because they were also looking at something similar values there. And these college level parties, when we did it this year in 183 colleges across 12 cities, and there were 55,000 young college goers who were touched upon in this entire thing. There were specific, very intrinsic promos which were worked upon, but and everything was being carried in the newspaper. So whatever our events are, they're basically not from event coverage, but as a concept, as a lot of interesting things. For instance, when Bikeathon happens, we would probably not write about that, are you participating in Bikeathon? We'll talk about what is a night Bikeathon, what is a hill Bikeathon, what is a couple cycling event could be. So basically engaging cycle in your life. And there were a lot of interesting ideas which keep coming in. So the content gets automatically supported, even the entire activation gets supported in a natural process wherein the content is also reading worthy. Typically I've seen in my editorial team, if it comes in like, this is an event, iska coverage karna hai, people reject it. They just will probably find as many words as been given by marketing or brand department, will throw it out. So you have to engage them. And in our scheme of things, everybody in the entire, all departments, all 5-6 departments, nobody owns brand department. It is owned by each one of them. It's a collective responsibility. That is how it has been inculcated. And each one understands in their own sphere. So that's when the participation becomes fun on promotion of any of such activities, which engages their readers. And the editorial people understand that ultimately the readers are coming back to them. Now, if it is something else, for instance, if it is about society and values generation, it is something which we thought could be a teacher meter. Now, something like explaining to them what is the importance of democracy, how would you vote. And there were an activity like this was just vote your favorite teacher. On Teachers' Day, on 5th of September, who's your most favorite teacher? We didn't talk about your best teacher or any other teacher. Who's your most favorite teacher? And kids are extremely engaged in something like this because they have this, my most favorite teacher, my favorite teacher kind of a thing. So we have now, when we have done it, season 3 of Teacher Meter in 2008, 2009, 2010, there were 120,000 college-going students we have touched upon. Typically in a college, about 1,500 students. And this has now become almost like an annually weighted event for amongst the readers, amongst the colleges and, the schools of these cities. And again, a simple format and interesting format all across. Coming to the domain which is education, obviously management education, we've become very specific. We said we'll identify a very small, our contact with the readers will be very slice of life. If you do the complete sphere, they don't like it because then they say that it is very generic. So you have to pick up what you are thinking of picking up and just be around that. And same holds true about an interactive format which we call Kanpur Calling. But over to the health meter. This was how the health meter was generated. The project was basically to educate the children and youngsters about importance of health and hygiene, managing health and hygiene. And reason was that we believe that at least this is extremely important that it should happen early. Now we had a clear selfish objective of doing this because we know that our primary TG was school-going kids, which was 3 to 10 years, but iNext is not read by them. So it turns out to be the parents who are young, who are going to get in touch through this program, and they're definitely going to be interested into it. And we also had another interest group, which was Britannia, because they were interested into kids as well as their parents. And incidentally, this happened later. The first year when the WAN-IFRA award was won, there was no sponsor to this event. In fact, we went to the entire national market through a marketing team, and everybody said, what? Health meter? I don't think this is interesting. Next year, we had 4, let's say, different important brands in the country who were looking forward to associating with it. And this is now an ongoing association in a detailed form. And the idea was also that somewhere this influencer who can influence a whole lot of things, he needs to become very friendly with iNext. You know, iNext needs to be in his life every day in a smaller manner, whichever manner it is. So it's almost like a family member. So that kind of a feeling was there. So these were the areas which we identified. So now this is specifically if an event happens, how to crack that down to nitty-gritties. These 4 or 5 areas being identified. Why should we have it? Because there is lifestyle pressure of studies, unhygienic surroundings are there, casual approach, unless it turns out to be a big problem. This is a big problem. This in itself is a big problem. And then lack of regular health checkup facilities. Now these are the typical problems which most of the school-going kids face, even amongst the schools which are little well off and the parents which are little well off. So once we did that across on all these things, we said that this is my TG and we'll be looking at them only. And the format was simple. There will be a basic health checkup, and then the health checkup will also be followed by a report card. There's a report card which I suppose is lying on your table. That is the one which we generated. 4 things were being checked up: eye checkup, dental checkup, growth rate analysis, and hygiene checkup. And of course, parents were communicated by 2-3 different communication formats. There was a brochure, there was a leaflet, as well as there was later in the newspaper itself the coverage that how to stay healthy and fit. And in terms of approach, teachers were primary influencers. So we first got in touch with teachers, so we got a positive response from them. We spoke to Indian Medical Association and we spoke to Indian Dental Association, and they agreed to volunteer about 600 doctors across, so in about 50-60 doctors in each of these cities. It was an interesting cause, and they in any case were looking forward to this going in a larger, bigger manner. And then schools were to be explained that how will they have to create an environment so that health meter turns out to be a big event within their scheme of annual calendar, so that kids take an active participation into it and results are also visible. Then we also, in order to encourage school, we said that we'll find out which is the healthiest school of the city and we'll work it out. The promotions were in the form of print ads. And print ads says like, kya hai aapke bacche ka health score? What is your kid's health score? And of course, other things were mentioned into it. Report card. You would notice a WAN-IFRA logo right at the entire communication this year after we won this particular one. Amway was also a very relevant brand, because Amway talks about a lot of healthy products in the houses and better living kind of a thing. So one more important thing which I would say is, I think if there are sponsors, they should be very relevant sponsors. Otherwise, it doesn't work good for either them or for us. So health tips were there on the other side of the report card. In fact, interesting thing was in report card, we advised the doctors to give stars and smileys and bananas and several other things, or apples, in terms of 3 or 4 or 5. Because we wanted kids to, because kids feel very encouraged if they're given that rather than marks 3, 4, 5 or 7. So there were smaller tips which were given to the doctors, and many amongst them who were pediatrician understood it, but many others who were not also could very enthusiastically participated into it. So there were cartoon characters to explain the entire thing. Within the cartoon characters, a Britannia tiger was also introduced, so became part of this, so integrated in the entire communication. And then there were editorial pushes, because it was important that it was India's Children's Day, it is a holiday, and typically kids might consider this, or parents might consider that it's not important for them to come in. So we pushed the activity by a lot of information in the newspaper, and tied up with radio stations. And this is a typical jingle which we played at that point in time.